Okay, I think we can start then. I would love to give the word to Charles as our president first, before we start.
Thank you, Nina. Ladies, gentlemen, I have the pleasure to welcome all of you to this webinar organized by the Center for Peace and Violence Prevention. We are pleased to have every one of you here, all of our team members from 2 continents, Africa and Europe. It's just a pleasure to see all of you here. And for those of you who have never had a chance to see the faces of the others, I mean, this provides an opportunity for that as well. Astrid, I want to thank you so much for accepting our invitation to present today. We are very pleased to have you. It's an honor to be to have you with us, and we look forward to learning a lot from what you have to share with us today. We still expect to see some of our team members online, but just before we start the meeting briefly, I would advise that we kindly turn off our cameras and mute our microphones so that the speakers, when they share, we could avoid having background noises and internet disconnection problems, since some people are from areas where the network isn't all that strong. Our first speaker today will be talking to us on do's, don'ts, the do's and the don'ts, and appropriate languages that are used in high-level meetings. That talk gonna start right away. That will be followed by our country director, Nina, who is in Austria. She'll be talking to us today about the Eurocentric views in humanitarian works and women's role in development. Then third, we will have our country director from Romania, in person of Calina Negreanu. She will talk to us on team efficiency and maximization. Again, I want to welcome all of you. It's a pleasure to have you with us. Thank you so much. Now, if we all could kindly mute our microphones, turn off our cameras, and allow our first speaker to go ahead. Nina will introduce her, of course, to give a more of a background on her. Thank you.
Yes, thank you, Charles. So I am more than pleased to introduce our first guest speaker today, Astrid Portillo Rodriguez. She is a lawyer and the counselor here of the Embassy of the Republic of El Salvador in Vienna. And she has a lot of experience with high-class meetings on a very high level. So I'm very pleased to give the word to you now, Astrid. You can go ahead. Thank you.
Thank you, Nina, and thank you all of you, the presence here, participants, and Charles Fulton, the Center for Peace and Violence Prevention. I think these kind of initiatives are so needed in these times that people the lack of knowledge is not allowing them to grow and to see these kind of very positive opportunities that we can have in discussing and sharing different perspectives. So for me, it's an honor to join you today. As Nina shared with you, I am from El Salvador. I am working in the foreign service of my country. I already have 14 years working for the government of El Salvador, and I have different experience that I can share with you in different scenarios. Now that since I am posted here in Austria in 2015, I am working with United Nations also, because El Salvador is a member state of United Nations. United Nations, as you may know, it is an universal organization that it is working with 193 member states, and El Salvador is one of them. Even though it's a very small country in Latin America, it's also equally having both and having a voice. So for us, it's very important to have presence in all different meetings that United Nations is organizing in different topics. Vienna is the office that address different matters that are very important for my country, especially because we are working together with the Office of United Nations Against Drugs and Crime. And both topics are very important for my country, especially because of the illicit traffic and abuse of drugs, and also the crime prevention and criminal justice is something that my country is very interested in to work with the United Nations. And so we are trying to get very involved in all different initiatives and programs. And for that, we know that United Nations provides different alternatives, and well, we can have like some background here. I wanted to share with you the presentation, but I think with the phone it's a little bit more difficult, but I'm going to share with you more or less how United Nations is working with different language. We have 6 official language that is trying to get a factor of communication among people. Multilingualism is a particular importance to the United Nations because it promotes tolerance, and also it is given an opportunity to share how the cultural diversity is bringing so many different aspects to the meetings, because all countries, we have different realities, we have different legal systems, we have different levels of development economically and socially. So for us is bringing together all our ideas and be able to express ourselves in our mother tongue is very important. But even though we have interpretation and translation in the official meetings of United Nations, it is just in the very formal settings, because the cost of these services are so highly that we are not able to have it in all the meetings. So United Nations, it set 2 working languages, that it is English and also French. But here in Vienna, we are using just English to work in the informal meetings. So all informal consultations that member states are involved in this office, we are doing it in English, and because it is the working language that we choose. And also, well, when we have the big meetings that are sessions of the commissions or the offices that are bringing at least one time per year, we have interpretation, and we have the possibility to bring also our representatives from the government. So I am sharing all this with you because I think when you know that the importance of multilingualism and cultural diversity, you are able to also to increase participation in all different aspects that people want to get involved. And it is trying to bring more effectiveness. But when we are not able to provide translation or someone that can interpret your ideas in your mother tongue, then we have to get something very clear, and that's what I wanted to highlight in the do's of a correct language. And it is like I wanted to share with you a quote that William Shakespeare wrote in Romeo and Juliet, and it is a quote that Juliet was saying to Romeo, and say, "What it is a name, that which we call a rose by any other name will smell as sweet." This phrase, that this quote that Juliet was telling Romeo, it says that it's bringing a reference into his family name. So when she was saying what it is a name, that which we call a rose, by any other name, we will smell as sweet. This implies that his family name has nothing to do with their love and they should be together. So I think this quote also bring a very good example that sometimes words are getting a little bit shorter. And if we want to just bring our real intention, we sometimes have to be very clear and try to explain what we want to bring to the meetings, or our ideas, or our statements. So first of all, when you are like in a meeting that will involve another language that is not the mother tongue that you have, for us it's very important to know that if the audience is culturally diverse and they have different mother tongues, you need to be very clear in the intentions of your ideas and what it is behind your statement. So any statement that you want to address to the audience need to be very clear in your intentions and what you want to contribute in your participation. So if you know that the audience is culturally diverse, I recommend that you be prepared in advance, because preparing in advance implies like get a copy of the agenda of the topics that that the meeting will be addressing, because then you can have more time to write an outline. So I do recommend having an outline to get your ideas in order and to have consistency in your intervention. So when you get an outline of your ideas, arguments, or conclusions, so the audience is easily following you in your ideas, and it is following your intentions behind your participation. So I also do recommend to rely on a well-recognized dictionary. Sometimes we have to do it, well, because my mother tongue is Spanish. So when I am in the meetings and I want to bring a contribution to share with the room the vision of my country in any topic, and there is a word that in Spanish means something, but I know that in English may have a different definition, I try to look it up and in the dictionary, and if it is not the definition in line with my intention or my idea, I try to use a synonym. So that's also a very good tool, because when you want to be effective and really contributing to the meeting, you need to be clear in order to other countries support your ideas and also include them into the paper. So most of the meetings are like bringing perspectives and views from all different regions, from all different countries, and do like a model outcome that can just get together all the different views and equal participation and equal importance. So it is very for you that you can just explain yourself very clearly and try to be try to contribute to the meeting with the perspective of your country, of your region. So that's how you are getting positioned in these forums, and in future meetings you are taking into account more seriously, because you are not just with like brainstorming, but you are very focused and the topics, and how you are bringing your contribution and blending your contribution with the topic is a very the great goal that you aim in any participation of these meetings. So to all countries to agree in what you are saying requires that you need to be prepared in advance. So I recommend that that you can just prepare in advance and get advantage of all the tools that now internet is providing, dictionaries, synonyms, grammar, spellings, also, well, asking to a native speaker is a very good option. So getting also these connection words or transition words in English for me is also a very good tool. All these transition and connection words, you can just put it in Google and they will be like coming a list of different kinds and types. And the good things of these transition words is like not only because the connecting ideas, but also can introduce certain shift and contrast or opposition or emphasis or agreement, purpose or result or conclusion. So in line or highlight your arguments or statements or ideas. So I totally recommend to try to add all this vocabulary of transition words or connecting words in English. If you're getting a long statement, these words are like helping you to do it in a very fluently way. So all the participants or the audience in the meeting can follow you without losing the consequence of ideas that you want to present. Another important do in a high-level meeting is also the body language. For us, I think, well, it's a very competitive scenario because all countries are sending the very best of their own professionals into these meetings. And because we are addressing so many seriously topics, they want you to be secure of what you are talking about. Otherwise, sometimes your contributions might be good, but because your body language was not very like efficient or more addressing into the topic and highlighting the importance, sometimes it's just like an opinion and it is not getting a contribution importance. So sometimes we are not talking clearly, or our voice is very soft, and we don't emphasize the key words of our contribution of our statement, and the idea, it is getting lost because of these very little issues. And it happens that or people is just drumming your fingers and you are nervous and you don't get concentrated in what you want to say, because sometimes nerves, well, can just win your determination or your conviction. So sometimes that's understandable. But if you want to have also a very seriously audience that it is taking you seriously, you need to also to practice your speeches and your body language, because that will help you to people to notice that you are secure, that you know what you are talking, and that your country is, or your enterprise, or all different institution that you are representing, it is seriously and it is a highly important matter what you are addressing, and it is not an opinion, but it needs to be reflected in the conclusions or in the outcome of the meeting. So your body language can be very important. So I do recommend that you can practice a little bit before any meeting, especially if you know that the audience is not easy, because for countries in our scenario, everyone needs to agree in order to include something in a final document. So even if we have so many different aspects of our realities and legal systems and level of economic and social development, we need to bring our ideas in a matter that they can just agree with us and say, this is an important matter. This contribution can be included. It is not affecting others, but it is giving an input. So it's very important to you to just see how the audience also behaves, if they are paying attention or if they are really can see you and they can just know that you are the one who is talking. So that's I do also put yourself in a place that everyone can see you, so you are approachable. If someone has a doubt, can just look at you and see, oh, you were the one who was talking about this. So in our case, well, El Salvador is always having a problem because we have different kind of crimes that are not in all regions. So for me, it's very important. Well, when we have a topic here in Vienna that we are working with in United Nations, that it is organized transnational crime. So we don't have like this organizational transnational crime in the same way that Italy has that. Italy has mafias and all these kind of different organizations that are very antique. But El Salvador is having another different kind of this kind of organizational transnational crime, that it is with gangs, that it is joint gangs. So in order to merge these different two dynamics, it requires a lot of persistence. And if you think that it is something important for you to be highlighted, don't quit also the idea. I think if you are persistent in your statement and you know that you can make a difference, you keep repeating it and explaining it and try to bring clarification to those who don't understand this phenomenon, because it is not happening in all regions. And as I say, the final document needs to have the agreement of all different countries, so that they can recognize that this is a threat that can affect different countries of different regions. So we call that a caveat, that a caveat is bringing like a space where you can just give the opportunity to other countries that might not have that problem, but that using that caveat, they can just go along with this statement, because they know that this phrase that says that happens in different countries of different regions, it is opening the door that it is not in general. So when you are using this caveat, is also a very good tool, because you recognize that we are all having different fights and challenges, but that you can have empathy, but you don't have it. And so a caveat is giving the opportunity to don't generalize, because sometimes you have to be aware that cultural diverse is coming also with different challenges and different threats or different opinions, and that doesn't mean that because they are different they don't need to be included, but it is giving you the opportunity to include your statement and to others to have empathy of the problems that are facing other regions. So for me, using these kind of phrases that recognize a situation but avoid to generalize that everyone has it is also a very important tool to have a connection with the audience that you know that it is culturally diverse. Another thing, well, that now we are facing is what we our reality of now, that is COVID-19. So COVID-19 is changing the dynamic of all meetings. For us is since March, I haven't got the opportunity to go back to the United Nations office. So all our meetings are in a virtually format. It is more challenging because you are not able to read the audience. So you are just like bringing a very brief statement, and you need to be very concise because the time is limited. When you are using these kind of platforms, online platforms, you need to know that the time is limited, and we don't have the opportunity to get the 193 countries to talk, because otherwise it will be like a marathon of like a endless meeting. So you need to choose priorities and to highlight the topics that you really think that are important for your work. So prioritizing is also a do. When you have all these new scenarios like virtual meetings, prioritizing is allowing you to get the audience very little or few points, but you remark them, repeating them. So I think when you are just trying to highlight 3 points, you are doing, okay, my intervention is going to be brief. I'm just going to highlight the 3 points, and you say point B, and point C. So for me, I wanted to bring this into this opportunity, into this meeting, because it is part of our priorities to talk to ABC. So you are highlighting these 3 points, you try to summarize, but in prioritizing is very important when you are just having a few minutes in a virtual meeting, because you know that nowadays being connected the whole day is also not positive, and so it's also allowing you to the meeting to flow more smoothly. So I think when you are in a virtual setting and the meeting involves so many participants, it's better to you to be concise and prioritize what are your main points in your intervention. So it's also appreciated by others because they don't have to go along with a long speech and you get lost in the ideas. So if someone remember you, will remember the 3 points and that you highlighted and that you repeated. So it's easier to the audience in an online format to remember your intervention and your participation, because you prioritized and you didn't give like a long speech, but you were remarking the important ideas that are important for you. Also, it's good that you time yourself. So when you are timing yourself, you are allowing also to the other participants to have the time that they have. Is like in the meetings that we are performing now in United Nations, they are giving us 3 minutes interventions. So it's very little when you have like a lot of ideas and a lot of policies and laws that your country has and that is important for you to be reflected. But that's why I say that it is also a very good tool to prepare in advance, because you can just write an outline and just highlight the main points and prioritize what it is the most important for you to share with others and to be reflected in the outcome or conclusions of the meetings. So timing yourself, it allows you to also to respect other people's time, because if you are getting too extended, then other persons might have like to cut their intervention, and we are working on principles of equality, so you need to be also respectful to other people's time of intervention. And that's something that it is very appreciated, and is also building relationships in a very good way, so they know that you are a person that you can rely on in having a role in a meeting, because you are respecting the rules given by the organizers. So it's very important that you can just also to time yourself and to know that, okay, I have this time, and I have to prioritize my important ideas and draw an outline, and that's the first steps in order to work on your participation. And if you have like a more time in like now that we have a webinar, so we have a little bit of more of a space in our intervention, well, it's also very important that you can just remark the main points, so that your intervention is not just like a speech, but you can just highlight in remark and recapitulate what it is the main points in order to people to get at least 2 or 3 main ideas that they can incorporate and they can just execute in a future opportunity. So it's very important that you can just recapitulate your main points, so that people can just also incorporate them if they feel that they will be useful. So there is so many different don'ts also. I think I just bring 4 don'ts that are, or 5 that are for me very important, that I made mistakes, and sometimes from your mistakes you are learning. So it's good that you can just evaluate yourself, and also to let others to tell you and to share with you, I didn't get the idea, or something like, oh, maybe you can just be more clear with it, or you can just raise more your voice in order to people to listen more clearly to you. So it's something that I do appreciate. So when you are making mistakes, it's also is very good when you can share with everybody this kind of experience. I think the first don't that I can share with you is, don't make assumptions that everything is clear, or that your idea was very understandable for everyone. I learned this when I was sharing with other countries about or organized transnational crime in the gangs, because not everybody knows that we call it gangs maras, but maras is a slang from my country. It's a slang word. So at the beginning, when I was like trying to intervene and bring this threat as a topic that United Nations needs to address, is like young maras. It's a very challenging problem for my country and several other countries from my region in Central America. But people was not understanding what is maras. So don't make assumption that just because it's something very clear for you, that everyone will also see it clear. So try to use very general words. Like for us, after that intervention that someone approached me with, is like, what is maras? And I thought, you don't know them, but are all over the news. And then I realized that if I don't say, look at the news, people was not understanding what is maras. So I was like, okay, I'm going to change to something more generally understandable term. So I changed it to gangs, because gangs is something that you understand what it means. It's not like a slang word like is in my country, like maras, but then I learned, like, I don't have to assume, because for my culture is something very, very common and very, very clear terminology that everyone could give you a definition. Well, when you are in a meeting that is culturally diverse, don't assume that everyone will know it just because you think it's a problem that it is very popular. So there is other regions and other countries that they have different realities and they don't know this kind of slang. So don't assume that sometimes your ideas are clear. Try to use very general vocabulary, because that is another don't that I can share with you. The second don't is like, try to avoid like the very technical vocabulary. For me, sometimes I found more useful and fruitful this plain language explanation, when you know that your English can be just very plain, very clear. Everyone will understand it. But sometimes we want to bring the topic as something that it is, like in my case, that it has evidence or science-based statements, and I want to bring to like the technical words of the assessments or different studies that the academia was doing about different situations. So I find myself, but not everyone was following my ideas. So when I am using a plain language, it's easier to people to understand, and that you can highlight the situation. And if someone has doubts, you can just share this kind of more technical opinions, but only if someone particularly is approaching you. But if you have like an audience that it is a broader audience, so I recommend to use very plain language. Another thing that I don't recommend is like, even you are you're writing an outline and you have the everything prepared in writing. I think it's not very useful when you are reading this, because when you are reading, you are doing it in a very fast way sometimes, and people is not able to follow you. So try to make it like a very natural intervention. Don't read, because otherwise you will go with the pressure of time and just finishing it. So I find myself that when I was like bringing a reading intervention or participation, people was not like following me because I was doing it very fast, or not having like more natural body language. So when you are having like a natural body language, people is more concentrated and focused and to hear what you have to say. So I don't find useful when you are reading your intervention. It could be good for you to make your ideas clear and to practice it when you are doing it in advance of the meeting. But during the meeting, I think people appreciate it more when you are doing it like in a conversation mode, or you are just naturally bringing the ideas. I think the other thing that I don't recommend, it is the fourth one. It is like, don't rate intervention. Sometimes if you are doing it with everyone, it's good. And say when you are like, okay, that's a good question, or oh, that's a great intervention. But when you are just doing it with one person but not with other, it's not good, and it is not bringing the meeting into like a team effort. So you are rating participation, and it is bringing like more a competition setting when you are doing it with just certain people and not with everything, so, with everyone. So I think it's very important that if you are rating or qualifying an intervention in a positive way, because you want to be constructive, and you want to encourage and motivate others to also to intervene, I think you need to do it with everyone. So if everyone is asking you a question, or your intervention was bringing different doubts, so you can just be very positive with everyone. And that's also the final don't that I can share with you. And it is also, well, it is Bible wisdom. So it is a verse that I really like, and it is in James 1:19. It says, "Be quick to listen, slow to speak, and slow to anger." So for me, the fifth don't, it will be, don't get angry if someone don't agrees with your opinion, and it is doing an intervention that you feel like it was offensive. So sometimes people, when they don't understand, they just want to discard your opinion or your contribution. But don't get angry, don't be defensive, try to listen. And if you see that the person is just trying to be toxic, well, neutralize it with a joke or something that people can see that it is not a fight, what you want to start with your ideas or a debate, but it's something serious that you find like also something that for you it is important, for other person might not be important, but we can just find a common ground where both persons can be also fine with it. So don't get angry with someone it is not agreeing with your intervention or participation. Try to bring a little bit of positive vibes to the meeting, and people will support you immediately, because if you are getting angry, that also is, it is not good for the whole audience, and everyone needs to be in the same page in order to support you. So I think that's more or less what I wanted to share with you. There is so many mistakes that I have done in my time here in Vienna, but I think this is the most important that I can share with you. We all have different opportunities where we can just participate in meet that will be very important. So I hope these suggestions and advices, and also experience that I had, can be also useful for you. So any question, please don't hesitate. I am here, and I will be glad to talk with you. Thank you.
Well, I would have a question, my dear. I want to thank you beforehand. That was so nice to have that talk. But I just want to ask you, because you have the experience, sometimes the intentions of two or more parties in a meeting, they diverge a lot. Like for us, for example, when we go into a meeting for CPVP and we, for example, discuss with diplomats, yeah, our interests might diverge a lot. So how can we ensure that the interests, for example, of our organization are also represented and respected in the meeting? Do you have any practical tips on that, maybe?
Yeah, well, sometimes you see that there is other countries that are hesitant to work with civil society. So for us, it's very challenging to bring topics that every country agrees with. So if my intention is to bring an idea or a new dynamic or a new mechanism, a new actor, I think that's why I was like suggesting to prepare yourself, to know who is going to be in the meeting, what are their priorities, and how you can merge your intention or your point of importance into bringing or like merging it into theirs. So if you know with who you are going to work with and how the profile of this person or this company or this government is, you can see that everyone can have like a gray area or a common area of interest. So the challenging thing is like to find that common area of interest and to sell it. So I think when you are preparing in advance, that's the important thing, because then when you know your intention and how is clear your intention, then when you are doing the research of your participants in the meeting, it's easier to identify how you can merge your interests with their interests. So it's very important to you to be prepared in advance and research about the topic that it is going to be addressed in the meeting and the participants that it will be there. So in order to just to bring already a suggestion or something that can help you to present a common interest, and that you can just work both in this topic that it is important for you, but it could be also important for them.
I see. Thank you very much for the input.
I would like also to ask something, Astrid, and to thank her for her presentation. I want to ask you, Astrid, for how long have you been in Austria and Vienna especially? And what was your biggest, not problem, but what was your challenge as working there in Vienna as a United Nations representation?
Thank you, Calina. Well, you know, El Salvador is a very small country. It fits 4 times in Austria, so you can just realize that how small it is. So for me, when they sent me here, they appoint me here, my biggest fear was like, oh, but I don't speak German. And they say, no, but you can defend yourself with English, don't worry. And I was like, okay. So I found myself in a very challenging situation to give myself to understand in English, because I learned it when I was 14 years old. So I was like, oh my God, I feel like a little bit rusty in my English. So and you see that United Nations is a very competitive environment. So if you're not secure and you're not prepared, people is not taking you seriously. So that's what I learned here, because many countries are sending the best of the best. So immediately we are working with equal conditions, but you can sense when you are working in a document that people is taking you or not seriously if you are bringing your intervention in a very seriously way. So if you are not able to give yourself to understand, then your priorities are not reflected in the final document. So the challenging situation is to make everyone clear in your intentions, and then bring the ideas or your intention as a very good contribution on the outcome document, and that they can just go along with your proposal. So if you are making 192 other states agree, so you can feel like you're a winner. So it's something very challenging, but it helps you to improve your capacities or being flexible, and also to understand that diverse of cultural people in a room can be problematic, but can also be very rich situation that can enlighten you with other people's perspectives. So I think it's since I came in Austria in 2015, It's been already 5 years of working in this scenario with this dynamic, and it's very it's been for me very enhancing my skills and stressing my qualities by like in a very intense situation. So it's not like an easy way to learn, because it is like if you are not smart enough or like very sharp enough, you are left out. So you have to keep your dynamic in the same speed as others. So it's been a very challenging experience. And yeah, I think is building capacities in any other kind of situation. So I think when you are getting involved in situations that go beyond your capacities, is bringing from you the best, if you want to see it in a very positive way. So thank you.
Actually, I want to thank you so much for this wonderful presentation. You've been very, very helpful to our team and for our professional development. You have given us insight on the workings of the international system at the United Nations levels. And you also told us how to behave, what to do, what not to do. We kind of learned a lot. I just made a brief summary of some of the do's and don'ts and the key points that you emphasize here. And hopefully this will be of immense help to us. Just to ask a quick question, I was wondering, for civil society like ours, that works basically in the sort of area we work with refugees and people that need support from different walks of life, and also people in places like Europe who also have certain issues to deal with, that we also, in the areas that we work, even including the area of diversity and respect for human rights and equality in all of the areas. I'm wondering, how can an organization like ours have access to the UN platform? Are there, in fact, positions or provisions made available for organizations like ours to present our case and present the sort of issues that we deal with?
Sure, thank you. That's a very good question that not all civil society organization knows, and they can just be active also in United Nations forums when they get an ECOSOC status. So when you have an
What is that status?
ECOSOC, that it is the Economic and Social Council of United Nations. So cultural, social, and economic culture. So it is like ECOSOC. It is the nomenclature. So when you get an ECOSOC status as a civil society organization, is giving you the opportunity or like a recognition that you are working, do have like all the standards that United Nations requires. I don't have like clear how it is the process, but I know that the name of the process is that. I can look at look and have like more information that I can share with you also through Nina. I can just give you how the process is, because well, we are working here in Vienna in different topics, and I think peace and violence prevention is something that it is very also in line with the works that we are doing here in Vienna, because of this UNODC office, that it is the United Nations Office Against Drugs and Crime. They have different forums about corruption, about getting crime prevention through sports, or violent extremism prevention through measures that can be more inclusive. So it's different topics that it could be also very interesting for the Center of Peace and Violence Prevention. If you are getting this ECOSOC status, you can participate of the meetings with member states. So you are able to hear all different interventions, how countries are addressing violence prevention or crime prevention. In our case, I think El Salvador is getting crime prevention through education. So there is an Education for Justice initiative that United Nations is promoting. So we are a part of this program. And we know that also when we have this kind of meeting with the commission, that it is a commission on crime prevention and criminal justice, there is a different civil society organization with ECOSOC status that are able to be in the room and that they can listen to all countries' intervention and participation. So it's helping you to also to build connections with countries and to attend side events. That side events are very good opportunities to participate in debates and thematic debates. So it also could be a very good opportunity. It is here in Vienna. You don't have to travel to New York, that it is the headquarters. So you are able to also to do it from Vienna or in Geneva, that it is the other office of the United Nations, or Nairobi. So here in Vienna, you are able to also to participate in these topics that are more in line with the matters that are important for the Center of Peace and Violence Prevention.
Thank you so much. We truly do appreciate that. We should follow up with you on seeing how best we can obtain the status if possible, and information towards that would be very, very helpful. Thank you again.
Yeah, it's my pleasure.
If anyone has any other questions, maybe before we proceed to the next part.
Yeah, we can go on.
Okay. Thank you very much, Astrid, one more time for your presentation. And I would kindly ask you maybe to share your presentation with us, because it was not possible for us to see it on the screen. So maybe that could be useful.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm
And,
going to send it to Nina.
yes, thank you.
Okay, beautiful.
Yeah. The next part of our webinar will be presented by Nina, and I will make a brief presentation of on her part. She is the country director for Austria since 2015, and she's currently mainly involved with the emergency project United for Mali and the school sponsorship program in Liberia. Also, she's working as a communication specialist for capital market communications as well as scientific communications. And she is an academic researcher in the field of international development and transcultural communications. I will give you the floor for the next part of the webinar, if that's okay. Thank you,
Calina, for your introduction. I will share my screen now with you. So today I'll talk with you about Eurocentric views in humanitarian work, as well as the women's role in development. Before I start, I really want to encourage you to frequently ask questions, to give your input as soon as you have an input or an idea while I talk about it, because I think we have here many different views and a lot of experience combined in our team. And I'm also really looking forward to hear about your experiences on the topic I will talk about. So I will give you a short outline on what we will be talking about today. So first of all, we will talk about the concept of development. We will look at global structures and hierarchies, not only in the humanitarian work, but in general, about how countries are dependent on each other, how they interact with each other. And then we will continue with the topic of women in development. What is the role of women in economic, but also social and national development? And we will have one closing discussion, but as I said, I would love to ask you to frequently give input as soon as an idea or a contribution pops up in your head. So the concept of development. Here is also my first question to you. When you hear the word development, what are you thinking of first? I really would like to encourage every one of you to give a contribution to this topic. What is development for you? Maybe we can have Calina speak first. Calina, do you have a contribution?
Yes. Yes, I was just turning on my microphone. When I hear development, I'm thinking that you can have like, let me give an example with a house. You can have a house that has just the basic. You have a bed and you have a sink. And then you're thinking, okay, I want to develop more, to have, let's say in this case, more comfort and to be comfortable there. So I'm gonna try to improve the way I'm living in this case. Regarding NGOs, we can extend this concept and say that we want to go from having just one basic level of education and going to a higher level of education.
So I can see the sense of progression, of improvement here, right?
Yes, progression.
Okay. Is there somebody else that has a different perception of development? Maybe also Pauline or the participants from other countries may contribute. Maybe there are also cultural backgrounds that make that perceiving of development a little bit different. Just be brave.
Okay, so I want to talk. So the idea of development, in my opinion, is like evolving to a better version of yourself and evolving the other sides of your life, like developing your, like, how do you say, evolving, like developing your company, developing your family, your life status, like everything. It's evolving.
I see. So also evolvement and improvement to some conditions, right? Whether it might be personal or professional, we talk about improvement here, right?
Yeah, and also evolving to some certain standards that you set up all the time.
Great, thank you, Alex.
Welcome.
Are there any further contributions for this question? Okay, then I will just go on, I think. So, of course, when we talk about development on a personal scale, we always think of improving our personal, our psychological, our mental status, our financial status, our standard of living, our education. We always talk about improvement, but we have to differentiate here because there is also the concept of development. So we talk here about development assistance from governments. We talk here about development aid. So it's a very structured and institutional concept. And this concept has an official beginning. In fact, it was in 1949 at the inauguration speech of the former US President Harry S. Truman. This speech is also called the Truman Doctrine. This is also where development, the official concept of development started, because as we can sense, 1949, that was a quite turbulent time, and many states were struggling with their state of independence or with other major issues. The thing is, Mr. Truman has stated that he believes that the policy of the United States must be to support free peoples who are resisting attempted subjugation by armed minorities and outside pressures, as well as that he believes that the United States must assist free peoples to work out their own destinies in their own way, and that he believes that the help of the United States should be primarily through economic and financial aid, which is essential to the economic stability and orderly political processes. Well, at the first glance, that sounds very well, I think. But here again, I also want to discuss with you, when we talk of development, he mentions free peoples. Is this the responsibility of the United States or Europe? When we think of 1994, maybe someone can contribute. What was the context back then? What happened shortly before, and which historical context is around this year? Maybe Angel or Ruben from Team Austria, do you guys want to contribute something?
Yes, I think shortly before that, in 1944, was the end of the Third Reich.
Yeah, the Second World War has ended. That's correct. That's exactly what I wanted to point out. After the Second World War, as most of us know, it was a partial end of colonialism. So many colonies have been set free from the colonial powers, and but not all of them. But when we see this global movement of independence, of course, there have been structures that have been held up for centuries. And after the Second World War, those structures have been taken out of the countries. But why does Truman talk about the own way of the free peoples to evolve, but still says they have to contribute on economic and financial services and financial aid? An additional context I want to give you here and outline here is that after the Second World War, the world divided into the two great blocks. We had the West and the East. So as all of us know, they always were struggling for the better position in a global scale, the West versus the East. And it was not only related to the geographical concepts of West and East, but also of the West, who was living in the system of capitalism, and the East, who was living in the system of communism. So in fact, we found a very intensive struggle and more or less a fight of the great powers, as they are called, whether they spread in the free nations, capitalism, or communism. So I really want to encourage now our participants from the diverse African countries. What do you think was the impact on countries in the global South? When the great powers were fighting for a better position in those free countries? Maybe Pauline, are you here? Maybe you want to contribute something? Or Dozy?
Okay, I will just come in and chip in quickly. Thank you. So, yeah, so yes, prior to, I would just go back a little bit prior to the First War. In fact, so we talk about colonization here. So Around 1884 and 1885, there was the series of conferences held in Berlin, which focused on the partitioning of Africa. And the reason was because Europeans wanted to, it was during the industrial age in Europe, and they needed more raw materials, and there was need for access to those raw materials. At the same time, European countries did not want to fight themselves. So one of the best way to do that was to partition the continent of Africa amongst themselves. This went from the Belgium, King Leopold owning the whole of the Congo, and having Britain having its own piece of cake of Africa, the French as well. So all of these nations had their pieces of Africa. And when the Great War started, Europe tried to defend its democracy, and then as in the process also brought in some Africans and Asians to fight in the First War. First War, fast forward, is over. Second War started, and again they needed extended troops to come and fight. And then African nations realized, African soldiers who came to Europe realized that, oh, Europeans are fighting for their freedom, but they have denied us our freedom. And so they started to advocate for their own independence, and the movement for the freedom of African nations started at the time. And some nations were, of course, with the exception of Liberia and Ethiopia, which were not officially colonized. Some nations, Ghana and the rest of them, in 57, Ghana got independence, the rest of them started to fight for their independence, followed by Nigeria and the rest of them. But the question is Africa truly free? Has it got independence fully? The question, the answer to that is no. There is, you can define colonization as the presence of a colonial power taking over the economic, political, religious affairs of a weaker state with the colonial masters on ground. We do now have a system of neo-colonization, which is the process whereby the colonial masters are no longer present on ground in the forms of human beings, but in the forms of multinational cooperation and in the forms of institutions and policies that do keep Africa perpetually, if you may, underdeveloped. So yes, we are not yet fully independent. There is a process of partial independence, and that's what we have maintained up to now. Dependency then, however, is also reflected in the form of the so-called development aid, where the developed world is trying to nurture the underdeveloped world to provide growth and aid and opportunities. But if you look at the impact of those developments, sometimes they do much more harm than they do actually provide help to the nation that they intend to help.
Thank you very much for that input, Charles. That is in fact also a perfect bridge to the next slide, because that is what I wanted to point out now. Because before I've presented you a perspective of the US, why they thought it's good to get involved in other countries in order to present it as if they would help them to sustain their freedom. But as Charles lined out now, that is in fact not the case, and is also we find those dependent structures in a lot of concepts and a lot of situations we are living in. We only have to think of the global supply chains, how they are structured, who benefits from them. But I want to outline to you an expert on this topic. His name is Kwame Nkrumah. He was the former president of Ghana. He has written a book already in 1965, what was called Neocolonialism, the Last Stage of Imperialism. And he outlined in this book that in classical colonialism, so while African nations still have been colonies officially, the imperial power had to explain and account for their actions in the colony at home, and those who served the imperial powers in the colonies, they could rely that they are protected from adversaries, and that they, for example, they got security, they got chances to improve the living conditions, and so on. But a major problem that Nkrumah lines out is that in neocolonialism, so after the so-called freedom, neither of this was given anymore, since the power that was exercised has been hidden. The colonial power has still worked in the former colonies, but they were not named as colonial powers anymore, so they did not have to account for anything they have been doing there. and they also did not have to protect their connections in the respective country. And a second input that is very important in my point of view is the input of Walter Rodney, who is a historian and a politician of Guyana, South America. He has written a very famous book in 1989, what was called How Europe Underdeveloped Africa. And this brings us to a very important point we always have to keep in mind when you think of development. Because before Walter Rodney has published this book and before many other scientists have given their input, the underdevelopment, the so-called underdevelopment of Africa was reasoned with endogenous reasons. So they said it's Africa's fault that they are in the state they are in right now. But when we look at the analysis of, for example, Nkrumah or Rodney, we see that in fact the capitalists of Western Europe actively extended their exploitation from inside Europe to cover the whole of Africa. Yeah, and he also stated that after Europe has lost some powers, they have been partially replaced by the capitalists from the United States. So what the important thing that Walter Rodney points out here is that development of Africans and other peoples from the periphery, as they call the global south, so South America, Africa, Southeastern Asia, is that they need a radical break with the international capitalist system. So Walter Rodney pointed out that this so-called underdevelopment is not a reason of internal faults or internal mistakes. No, it's a system problem that has evolved over centuries. I really wanted to ask now every one of you to think of this dependency. Where have you seen dependency between, for example, European countries? So when you think of inside Europe, as Walter Rodney mentioned, the capitalists extended their supremacy from inside Europe over the whole of Africa. So where are the dependencies within Europe? I also would like to encourage our participants from Africa today to tell us, where do you see the dependencies inside Africa, and where do we see it on a global scale? And a very essential question, what do you think? Has this development project failed? Because we are now in 2020 and we still see dependencies, we still see the so-called underdevelopment. So please, guys, feel free, be courageous to give your input on that. I'm really curious to hear your opinions. Maybe Team Romania, when you think of Romania, do you think that there are any dependencies within Europe, or are the dependencies outside Europe or on a global scale? Have you ever thought of this topic?
Guys, please feel free and share your opinion. You know, we are just having an internal webinar learning, so we are all learning from one another. So no need to be shy, no need to feel like you're gonna make a mistake. You know, every information is important, so feel free and just speak out.
I would like to say something about Romania. Maybe meanwhile, some others participants would like to share their ideas from Africa. When I'm thinking of dependencies here related to Romania, back then the communism period, we were dependent on the system, as don't go out of the country because you have to stay here. We will provide you everything. We will give you everything. The industry will be working here in Romania, so we don't have to go outside to seek for something else, for help. But this was not a healthy point of view, because other areas were suppressed, like education, culture, not education, sorry, cultural areas, religion also. So this led to a mutiny, the revolution in 1989 here in Romania. But after this, we said, okay, we are free. But then we got the capitalism from the east, from the west, and I'm thinking of United Europe and NATO, since we were kind of obliged to buy weapons, not weapons, or maybe I'm not so acquainted with this topic, but for NATO we had to buy helicopters and some other machines. So this way we are dependent on NATO, and now we have headquarters here in Romania, in Sibiu and Caracal. So even if we are free, we are still dependent on other systems like NATO, for example. So this is my idea for the moment, but I'm sure there are more.
Thank you, Calina. That is a very valuable input. Pauline has written that she wants to be next, but before, I also want to say that is a very good point you brought out. And this is like the obvious dependency everyone could observe. But even if we think in the year of 2020, when we think of structural exploitation, I will give you an example. When you think of the woods in Transylvania, and we have the Schweighofer Woods Company of Austria, who is illegally cutting down the old forests of Transylvania in order to profit from these woods. And they still they use it, they make a product out of it, go back to Romania and sell it there. So they exploit Romania and present it as if it would be a benefit for them. And this is also structural exploitation and some sort of dependency we can still see in the year we are actually currently in right now. Okay, so thank you. I will give the word to Pauline now, and Dozy is next. Please go ahead, Pauline. Pauline, it should work already. You can speak up. Okay, maybe we try having Dozy first, and maybe Pauline, you figure out why it's not working.
Okay. I don't know if you can hear me.
Yes, we can hear you.
I want to speak from the Nigerian perspective. Talking about dependency, currently Nigeria is facing some sort of economic recession, and majorly we tune into the news and we hear that the government has, there's this, they've borrowed money from this country, they've borrowed money from the other country, they've borrowed money from the IMF and all of it. So there's a lot of borrowing going on. So for me, I think this is a sort of financial dependency, and I know that usually some of these lendings don't come cheap. Usually there's this other requirement from the borrower that has to take place. So for me, I think there's this sort of financial dependency for the economic challenges Nigeria is facing currently. That's all I have to say for now.
Wonderful, thank you very much. Sorry, go ahead.
Just to expatiate on what Dozie has mentioned, a nation like Nigeria should not even have any reason to borrow from any country at all. It's such a wealthy nation that it should not beg. But the system that Of course, one cannot blame the international system entirely. This has always been my argument because Africa isn't the only continent I experienced colonization, nor slavery. We have South America and Asia, they equally experience colonization and they are doing fairly well. So one should not always base the argument on the fact that Africa is perpetually underdeveloped when compared to the rest of the world. One shouldn't blame the West entirely because leaders from Africa are also equally to be blamed. But just to expatiate on what Dozie say has mentioned, systems like the IMF and World Bank and other institutions, they have done incredibly well to support projects and support people that really need help in other areas, the funds that they provide. But at the same time, when you look at the totality of that help, it has really been conditioner. For instance, the funds that one would get from IMF, for instance, the conditionality of paying back that loan is enough to cripple the country. For instance, when I was a child in Liberia, we were told that we had a loan and we had a loan for a very, very long time. You can spend a nation can spend years and years and years just repaying the interest of a particular loan. Now, that in itself is one of the most difficult forms of dependency. We look at the Nigerian context. It's an oil-rich country. They have oil, but they don't produce the oil. The oil is extracted from their country, taken abroad to the United States or Europe, refined, and then sell back to them at a much more higher rate. So it's as if you have, you have a rice in your house, but you don't have fire and pot to cook it. Someone else cooks it in a restaurant, and you have to pay for the shipment of that. In some cases, it's prepared, then it's shipped back to you, and then you have to pay for it at a much higher rate. Those sort of dependency has been one of the key reasons why nations like Nigeria will continue to face the sort of economic recession and the sort of challenges they are having now. And that just go hand in hand with the case of Romania when you mentioned the issue about, their wood here taking over to whether it's gonna be Sweden or Austria, manufacturer sell back here as furniture. You can also put that into context with the case of Liberia, whether it's gonna be done with a case of rubber. It's a very, as of World War II, in fact, Liberia was the higher producer of rubber in the world. But we don't even make tire. We don't make anything from rubber in Liberia. So it's shipped out, produced, and resold. So there are no companies or manufacturer industries there. So we continually depend on the production of these things outside and brought back to the nation. But then even people who work in these plantations are paid ends meet. Now, citizens are so trapped that if they don't work, for example, with Firestone, which is a rubber plantation there, they wouldn't get a job. So sometimes these corporations have so much power that they can hold the economy of a country hostage. They give these conditions, and if nations don't accept these conditions, they pull out, and this creates instability because citizens then get, afraid, or government gets afraid, why citizens get angry, and instability starts, and sometimes turn to conflict, and then that spill over into violent conflict. And dependency has really been one of the key things that has led to the instability and violence across lots of Africa. Again, I want to maintain here that with good leadership, and I underline the word good leadership, with good leadership, we can overcome some of these challenges. It should not be entirely the fault of the West, but I think we should also accept some sort of responsibility as nations who are from the southern part of the global, from the global south. Yeah.
Thank you very much that you pointed that out, especially the influence of the leadership, because it makes a huge difference whether you have corrupt elites or you have responsible leaders. Thank you for putting an emphasis on that. Pauline, I think you can go ahead now. Your phone is on, I can see that, but I think we cannot hear you. We can hear background noises, I think, but I do not hear you speak, Pauline. Okay, there seems to be a technical issue. Maybe we shift Alex next now, and if it does not work later on, Pauline, maybe you can write it in the chat, your input.
Yes,
Oh, I can hear you.
I want to give my perspective. We talk about dependency, looking at Liberia, 75% international community. United. Hello?
Yes, we can hear you, Pauline. Just go ahead.
Pauline, we can hear you. Go ahead, please.
Hello? Hello?
Yes, do you hear us? We can hear you. Just go ahead. Okay, Pauline, I don't know.
Hello?
Yeah, we can hear you again now. So just
Are you
go
getting me?
Yes, we can hear you. Just go ahead.
Hello?
Yes, we can hear you.
Hello?
Seemingly, Pauline does not hear us.
Hi. You hearing me now? Thank perspective on Liberia. Yes. Tutor leadership in Liberia depend on. Yes, I'm getting. Yes. Other countries that are for resources in educational sector, not only families back home depend on
Okay, seemingly the connection with Pauline is breaking. So maybe Pauline, can you write your input in the chat and we go ahead with Alex? Please go ahead, Alex.
Okay, thank you, Nina. I want to talk about the France, and because I live here and what I see. Why France? It's very rich because it's sucking a lot of treasures and a lot of money from other countries, and it's sucking from a lot of countries, and the country will be rich even in 100 years. And also the average French people, they are not working lower jobs and they depend on like immigrants to do the dirty jobs and the lower jobs, like all you see in France, like the highways, the metro galleries, all the buildings in Paris, they are built by the immigrants and not by the French people. Everything is built by the immigrants here. So if the immigrants will go away, the French people will actually find it hard to do these jobs. So that's why they give papers and these jobs to the immigrants. But I think it's common even to UK, for example. So yeah, this is my opinion.
Thank you very much, Alex. That is also a very important point you lined out here. This is also a thing we can sense here, for example, in Austria, even though Austria has never been an imperial power or something similar. But you can see that, for example, the Serbians have built 1/3 of Vienna. So all the time there has been this structure of exploitation of another people. Thank you for that input. If there are no further contributions currently, I would go a little bit further now, because we have those correlations also in the next topics I will talk about. But if somebody has still something to contribute right now, please go ahead, feel free.
Yeah, I wanna speak. You hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay. I want to add something to what Alex said. For instance, from my country, we were colonized by France, and until now we have a lot of issue with France policies, because for instance, they have to decide that we have to be our leadership members, like the president and other people and so on. And for that, according to that kind of thinking, we have a lot of problem with that country France, not with people, but to people that came in power. And we realized that it seems like it's something that had to be keeping going. It doesn't matter who have to come on the power, but he have to do what he have to do to be kind for the country. That's why we have a lot of resources from my country, Ivory Coast, but we don't benefit from that. Only France have to decide, even though the money that we used is made here in France, and a lot of things like this. And we think about without people, countries that had been colonized by France, France cannot be developed like they are now, you know. And this is what I want to add it according to that dependencies.
Thank you, Leo. That was also very important input, because that is also, you said you are from Ivory Coast, but also from all the former French colonies. Like, for example, in Mali, there is a general saying that the French are parasites, because it's really a matter of fact up till today. Thank you very much for that. And I will proceed now that we can also discuss the further points related with this basis. I want to say thank you that you guys contributed so much. You can see how many knowledge we have in our team, and I'm very happy that you contributed this. Now I want to put an emphasis on where all these structures of dependency lead to. So in development studies, in development research, there always have been these general traits in some era throughout the history. After the official beginning of development, it was the modernization theory. So Europe created the belief that every country needs to modernize in the same style and the same way they did back then in the Middle Ages. A very famous South American approach is the dependencia, which discusses the still active global dependencies and how they prevent other countries from developing. We have a world system theory that also deals with how we are all caught up in the world system, and that some countries do not even have the possibilities to set free from their dependencies on other countries, because the structures are kept up on a global scale. I think that is very interesting and very intensively discussed is the neo-colonialism, which is like a form many of the researchers from the 60s and 70s could not imagine. They thought in our time, their future, what is our present, there will be no more colonial structures. But as you can see, they have been upheld till today. There are post-development researchers which say development, like Europe designed it, is not the ultimate goal. And there are many, many more. Originally, I wanted to share a video with you, what is called Congo Calling, but I think I will just share the link with you afterwards so that we can still discuss the aspects of women in all this. Because when it comes to women's role in development, we see very similar structures from global dependencies and global hierarchies, but just on the basis of gender. So I want to present you 3 authors today, Maria Mies, Esther Bozarup, and Kimberly Crenshaw, because they with the theories have really created a new frame of development and development theories, and they shifted the paradigms that the people who receive development aid benefit on a similar level. Maria Mies is a very important author because she deals with patriarchy and the basis of patriarchy and how the system of patriarchy has been violently installed throughout the history and how this led to a multi-layered oppression, not only one layered oppression, not just that the female is subjugated to the male, but on many levels. Esther Bozarup is the one who initiated the UN Women's Decade of development because she made analyses in West Africa and India where she figured out that women in fact play the most important role in economic development, and national development can only be successful if women have the access to modern agricultural techniques as well as modern labor market sectors. And Kimberly Crenshaw puts in a very important aspect because she stated in her theories that the experience of being a Black woman cannot be understood in the terms of being Black and a woman separately. So yeah, you have to always keep in mind that oppression is can happen on various levels, and that's what she points out, but I will give you a little bit more insight on that while focusing on Esther Bozarup's women's role in development. She published this book in 1970, and yeah, it was a comparative empirical analysis, as I said, in West Africa and India. And she figured out that the new technologies that are brought by the development aid or the development workers, in fact, worsen the status of women by reducing their access to productive work, because the jobs for these productions of finished crops and wages have only been made available to men. So women had to increasingly withdraw into the domestic economy, what is also called the reproductive work. So being a mother, taking care of the house, do the cooking, the cleaning, and all those stuff. And yeah, that has been going on for quite a while. And this division of labor introduced by the Western world has drastically worsened the social position of women, especially in West Africa. Literature shows that women have had the higher social status in families, and that they also have been the decision makers. And this has also been, for example, in many Asian countries been the case. So yeah, she points out that there really is a oppression going on of women, and that when development aid goes on as it has been till 1970, women more and more will lose their possibilities in society, and will also lose the chance to welfare, which also has effects on their children and the whole families. A point that has been pointed out by Kimberly Crenshaw is that Esther Boserup she's Danish, so she has many Eurocentric views that cannot be applied to any culture. But still, I think that she created a milestone that women need to be more taken into account while thinking of development humanitarian work, in fact. But an important side note is also that the provision of food and the prerogative of the man has been disproved by Esther Boserup and Maria Mies. So both of them outlined that throughout history, in fact, the females have always delivered the main amount of food and always have had the more important role in a society. This brings us to the next topic in this context. I want to present you a Nigerian researcher. Her name is Oyeronke Yowumi, and she's the author of Making an African Sense of Western Gender Discourses. And I really love this book. I have to recommend it to everyone because she outlines that Western categories and theories are used across cultures without examining the ethnocentric basis. And she also calls the UN as the symbol of this Western dominance, because as Esther Boserup created the Women's Decade of the UN, there have been coming up enormous differences between Western feminists and non-Western feminists, because the concepts have just been different. And what Oyewumi points out here is that she compares it with the Yoruba culture, and she states that that in the Yoruba culture, for example, gender is not the basis for social categories as it is here. It's only like the biological sex, that's it, but it does not define what your social status is in the culture. But this is what the Western feminists pointed out and always tried to force women from the global South into their concepts. She ends this with the reference to Lyndon Nicholson, which says, "We Westerners must explicitly acknowledge that our assumptions about women are not based on a given reality, but on our own historical and cultural context. They are political acts that reflect the context from which we come and the future we desire." So right now, I really want to ask you, how can our concepts be political acts? How do we perceive things? Where do we apply our cultural biases on other cultures? Maybe someone can share their experiences on this. Angel, for example, you have been in Mali. Maybe you can share which cultural biases you have figured out while being there.
Before I start with this, I just had an input for the question before regarding the development and the dependency of the continent Africa. I found something that the continent was forced by the promise of debt relief for public budgets, and that's why Africa was pushed even further into export dependency with the raw materials and agricultural products to obtain foreign exchange and reduce debt. A good fact to know that that's the only continent that since the mid-1980s has submitted more to the recommendations of the World Bank and the International Monetary Fund to introduce a neoliberal economic policy. Yeah, I found this very interesting to give this input for the question before.
Thank you. Also, Pauline now wrote her input. She says, "My perspective on dependency is that most countries, especially in Africa, depend on aid from Europe, America, and other continents due to bad leadership and poor utilization of natural resources. For example, my country, Liberia, depends on air 75 to 85% to support its national development programs. And this is very sad, especially with the surplus resources. That is also a very important input that goes in line with the other inputs of the other participants. And I want to thank you a lot, Pauline. That's very important. Yeah, I think
Nina, I think you're on mute.
thank you. So did you hear Pauline's input I read?
Yes, we heard that, and when you started to talk, then it was on mute.
Okay.
So after Pauline's input.
Okay, so what I said is that we do not only see those dependencies on a national or global level, we also see it within social or biological classes or categories. So maybe someone made personal experiences or has heard about such things and would love to share them. Also, this is I want to encourage the men, because what we talked about now is not only a female topic. So maybe someone also wants to give input on this.
Okay. Can I say something?
Yeah, of course. Go ahead, Dozy.
Okay. I work in a school, and over the years, we've had the head boy. I mean, we've had the senior prefect as a male. Now, but then, sometime last year, a female emerged as the senior prefect, and it was very strange, like very strange. It was so strange that even females were not supportive of the idea. So most females were like, how can a female lead the students and things like that? So, seeing that it's even coming from the ladies was a big issue for me, because I was thinking, come on, this is something that has not happened before, and this is a female becoming the senior prefect. I was thinking that the ladies would be very supportive of that, but I saw some ladies that to them it's very strange and they did not support. So I don't know. So I think it's the norm has just become very established in their mind that this is the way things should be done. And so it's really a big issue here for a female to not support that idea of another female being the senior prefect in the school. So that's just what I want to say. So, thank you.
Thank you very much, Dozy. And I think this is where we can build a bridge between the oppression and the structural violence against women, and also the oppression and structural violence against certain continents or countries. Because this is exactly what you said. A concept has evolved throughout hundreds of years, where many doctrines, there are mainly Christian doctrines, we have to be honest, but also from other religions and other systems. But the system has been built up that not even women can trust in a female leader. And I think this is like a major problem we are dealing with, because if not even like women themselves support each other, how could they get the support of a man who is anyway questioning their possibility of authority? So that's very important that you outlined that, and it's very interesting to hear this example. Maybe someone has a contribution on what Dozy said, or a general contribution?
Yeah, I wanted to just add to what Dozie said. Quite interesting, because I had a privilege to attend that school as well. And that was in 2002. And during that year, our senior prefect was a female. Adaba was her name. And when she left, because I was in 11th grade, so after that said, when we got to 12th grade, we had a senior prefect who was a male, but he went against the school policy, so he was removed. And then the school took a decision to make his deputy, which was a male, which was a female, Esther, to be the CM prefect. But the school also went further to take a decision that there will be no deputy CM prefect. So Esther was the CM prefect and the deputy CM prefect. But then to the point you just made, so over the years, from between 2002 to now, we have seen how the whole idea of feminism has evolved culturally from across the world, and even the importation of foreign movies. We can see how whether going to be foreign music video or movies has gradually changed the mindset of our younger generation. I'm quite just surprised that rather than now the student being excited that we do have a female CM prefect, because being a CM prefect is not based on your gender. It's based on few things: your integrity, your academic performances, and your leadership ability. So those are the criteria that based on those criteria is what you're selected for to be a CM prefect. And the school has a board meeting to decide on that. It's like a very huge process. In some cases, students will even vote. So you must really have that level of influence amongst your friends, that academic excellence, and that integrity that is required for you to represent not just the school and not just your family or your fellow students, but also the school at, in most cases, even at the national and state level. So yeah, it's interesting to see that these sort of changes are already creeping in slowly and slowly. And you're right, most of these selections as we were growing up are not based on your sex. It's just based on your what you're made of, what you're able to present on behalf of yourself, your family, your society, how prepared you are to represent everybody.
Thank you very much, bro. I just have to charge my computer. Pauline, maybe it's working now. You wrote that you want to go next. Let's try this again. Seemingly, it does not work, Pauline. Do you think you can write it in the chat again, in the public chat? Does somebody else in the meantime have any contributions to this? To the topic? Is Alina still here? Maybe Alina, you have anything to contribute to this?
Yes, I'm still here. Thank you for your talk. It was very interesting. Maybe I would like to say that, yeah, I still do believe that the world that we're living in is very interconnected, and the development of countries really is dependent on the economic and social systems of other countries. So I believe that the future of our society is really dependent on the international level. We can hear you, Pauline, if you want to continue.
Go ahead, Alina. Please go ahead.
So all in all, that's what I wanted to say. And if anyone has any other questions,
Okay, yeah, we will just go ahead now, I think. I just wanted to share with you some recommended literature. Anyway, the presentation is recorded, so I can share that with you afterwards. But for those who want to go more into those topics, you can take a picture of this recommended reading list. It's 2 pages. We have this one, which is more on how development developed and how the global system has evolved and led to the system we are living in now. And this one here, the second one, is more also on feminism and feminism in a global scale, but also, yeah, with, for example, Hernando de Soto, who really deals with it on a very theoretical level, how the system evolved we are living in, or also Rhys Gilbert is very recommended concerning the history of development. Pauline, when you still want to put your input here in the chat, go ahead. We will read it afterwards. And I personally want to thank you very, very much for your attention. I hope it was not too much, but I think especially for us as humanitarians, it's very important to also have a theoretical background on such topics, that when we are in meetings, like we discussed in the talk of Astrid, in high-level meetings, that we have a theoretical background, we can put our theories and our organizational interests into. So thank you very much, everyone, from my side.
Yeah, thank you, Nina, for your presentation. It was very interesting.
Okay, so thank you, everyone. Right now we would go into pause. So we have planned 30 minutes pause. We are a little bit late now. Would it be fine for you if we keep it on 20 minutes and start at 12:30 again with Calina's talk? Please, everyone can confirm if that's fine.
Sorry, says just before we go on the break, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Just before we go on the break, we have team members from everywhere, and I'm wondering if they could just quickly introduce themselves and just tell us which team they are, which region they are. We didn't have the time to do that because we started a few minutes late. So if you could kind of do that, I would start from. Do we have Team Mali with us?
No, sadly, something's not working with Thomas.
Okay, we will start from Nigeria. Could you introduce yourself, please?
Okay, sorry, I'm currently in a cab. My name is Chidozie Kalu, and hello, can you hear me?
Yes, yes.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you. Please go ahead. We just have maybe 20 seconds for introduction, so please go ahead.
Okay. Okay, my name is Chidozie Kalu. I'm a teacher. I stay in Port Harcourt, River State of Nigeria. Thank you. It's wonderful being here. I've learned a lot. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dozier. Thank you very much. We will cross over now to Liberia. Pauline, if you can hear me, please tell us your name, your
Thank you very
country,
much. It's
what have
wonderful
you.
being here. I learned a lot.
Thank you, Dozier. Thank you so much.
Let me come in here because it's important. I want to share Pauline's input again. She sent it to the organizers. Pauline tried, having women at the center of leadership enhances speedy development because they are practical leaders who manage their families and homes to success. We therefore need a global campaign for women's leadership to ensure sustainable development and prosperity of our societies. And I really also want to confirm this from my point of view. But what I want to point out, because I figured it out myself as we were working in the women's empowerment program in Mali, especially this is an out call to us women from Europe and the global north. When we think of women from Africa, South America, Asia, we cannot project our own definitions and concepts of females, of being a woman, onto them, because those concepts can diverge a lot, and I really want to put an emphasis on cultural, socio-cultural, historical, or whatever differences we have to keep in mind. Thank you. And Pauline, can you hear us and want to introduce yourself now?
Okay, we'll come back to Pauline. Let's go to France. Oh, Pauline is with us. Yeah. Pauline, go ahead, please.
Hi.
We can hear you.
Hi, everyone. Hi. My name is Pauline Kator. My name is Pauline Kator. I'm from Liberia. I am a youth activist, and I'm passionate about women and children rights. I've spent so much, many years doing this work, and I really enjoy doing it. I enjoy connecting with you all. Thank you so much for having me on the discussion today. Thank you.
Thank you, Pauline. Thank you. You made a very crucial point on women leadership. We will move down to France.
Alex, the stage is yours.
Oh, sorry. So yeah, I'm Alex Bulgaru. I'm from Romania, but I live in France right now, and I'm in charge with the graphics of CPVP. I'm the design director, and I'm working sometimes as a freelancer, and I'm interested in travel jobs. So yeah, someday I plan to visit all the planet.
Superb. Okay, thank you, Alex. Thank you for that introduction. We move to Germany. Dino, the floor is yours.
We are Austria, yeah, but thank you. So you guys.
Yeah, Germany. No, Germany. We have someone from Germany.
Yeah, actually, he was talking about me.
Oh.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm Bodeno Samaki. I'm actually Nigerian, but I live and work here in Germany in a product sustainability and human safety company. And I would like to believe I'm actually more a part of the CPVP branch of Romania, but I guess I'm, since I live there as well, but I guess I'm more international. And I'll let you have the Germany aspect of it, Nina, because I'm sure you speak the language better than me anyway. So yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you, Charles, for disowning me from the Romanian sector.
I just have heard the name wrong. I'm sorry.
Okay, Dino, thanks for the introduction. Yes, Dino, he's one of the oldest member of our team. We move now to Team Austria. We know we have some members in Vienna and some in other cities. So, Team Austria, please go ahead.
Yes, maybe we start with Angel. Go ahead with Ruben and Dorina.
Yeah, hello. My name is Angel Popanton. I'm the husband of country director Austria, Nina. And so I'm also her right hand in some tasks in CPVP, and I started with the idea to be very involved in the youth project, but also taking care of the sponsorship program in Liberia, and was involved in United for Mali, in Mali, building the tents in the camp. And there I find out that I would love to be more involved in the empowerment stuff, or in the empowerment project. As I can give some knowledge in a few topics like welding And yeah, I want to specialize more on that because it's very helpful for the people. Yeah.
Thank you, Inge.
Ruben, can you go ahead, please? Okay, before we lose too much time, we still have online here Ruben and Dorina. They are in a different region of Austria. They are taking care of the so Dorina is responsible for the finances of Team Austria. She manages our account and does all the balance sheets and everything. And Ruben is a team assistant since he's only 15 years old and he's our youngest member in CPVP. So I think we can go to the next team. Thank you.
Team Romania, please. Team Romania, can any of you just take the floor? Yeah.
Calina, I think you're on mute.
Alina, you can go first in this case. Thank you.
Okay, to save up some time, I will go first. I'm Alina. I'm a graduate in crisis and security management. My passion is working with different cultures. I started researching certain countries from Africa, so that's why I started my work with CPVP as well. And I'm very glad to be part of this team. And I'm happy that we had this webinar today.
It's great. Thank you, Alina. I'm Calina Negreanu. I'm a piano professor. I'm also the country director of CPVP. Since last year, I was involved starting with Cluj United for Mali, where I was playing at that event. So since then, I'm very devoted and dedicated to this NGO cause and mission. And I'm happy to be part of this team and to be helpful. Thank you.
Leo? Thank you, Calina. Leopold? Your microphone?
Hello.
Yeah, we can hear you.
Okay, I'm the TBJ Leopold. I'm a PhD student in physics. I'm from Ivory Coast, but I'm here in Romania for studies. And I'm part of CPVP. I'm the general secretary. Thank you.
Thank you, Leo. Yeah, Leo is our team member here in Romania. Thank you, Leo. Anyone else from Team Romania? Okay, Nina, I'll hand it back to you. I'll hand the floor back to you, Nina.
Okay, thank you, everyone. This was the first part of the webinar. We still have one shorter session after a short lunch break. So right now it's 12:20 our time, GMT +2. So I would suggest that we have a pause of 20 minutes now from now on. Does that work for everyone? Please confirm.
Let's do.
Yeah, that works for me.
Sounds great.
Yeah, great.
Okay, but just 20 minutes because we're gonna be too long and I have to go somewhere else.
Not more.
Okay, so at Romanian time it will be 1:40. Yes.
So I will leave the meeting open. You can also stay in. I will put my camera off and my microphone on mute, and then we can just continue afterwards.
Okay.
Okay,
Great.
guys. See you in 20 minutes.
Angel, you open the meeting when we get back. So please just start once it's time.
Yeah. All right, sir.
Great.
Thank you. See you then.
Angel, can you start?
Is everybody here?
Thank you. Got 12 persons online.
Yeah. Yeah, ladies and gents, hi guys, welcome back to our webinar. Hope you had a good break. It was short, but hope you could charge a bit. We will continue with Calina in the next presentation, and I have a short introduction for her. So Calina Negreanu is the country director for CPVP Romania. Previously, she was the assistant country director for the organization. She graduated from the Music Academy in Cluj-Napoca with a bachelor's and master's degree. Calina is working as a piano teacher for 13 years, and additionally, she's composing pieces for the piano, and recently she started composing music for CPVP's musical project. She also has a diploma in public speaking and enjoys being a volunteer for different causes in her free time. As an example, being a volunteer for a marathon in the Apușeni Mountains. She started her collaboration with CPVP in 2019 with the first event, Cluj United for Mali, where she helped with the organization of the project and had a performance playing the piano. After her involvement in the first project, she started working closely with Charles Rutter, and they began building a stronger team with the Romanian branch. Her main areas of involvement are the organization of local projects in Romania with a main focus on the art and music programs, called EduPax and ArtPax. Apart from her work at CPVP, she also collaborates with the volunteering center Cluj Provobis. At the moment, she's working with a motivated and great team for the local and international development of the organization. Please welcome with me, Calina Negreanu. The stage is yours.
Yes, thank you, Andrew, for your presentation. And I'm very happy to be here today with all the teams as an international CPVP team. As you know, now I'm a professor, piano professor, and most of the time I'm interacting with students and children. So I was thinking, how can I use this experience to extend it working with a team of adults and grown-ups? So actually, if I want my students to cooperate with me, I have to value them and to give them valuable information so they can develop. The similarities between a group of children and a group of adults as a team are there, except the fact that children may see you or see me as an authority. And working in a group of grown-up people, the responsibility lays in each other, but can be divided so they can be seen as equals, not just an authority, just equals, even if they follow a guideline hierarchy. Now I would like to share the screen. I hope that technology will help me. Yes, let me see. Just a second. Yes. Now we have the screen. Yes, so my topic for this webinar is team efficiency and maximization. I want to ask you, what are you thinking of when you hear the word team building? Until you think of something, you can write it down, or you can just have a sentence that you can share with all of us, maybe in the chat, or after I will give my observation, not my definition, observation. But before, let's start with an Oxford languages definition. So the action of causing a group of people to work together effectively as a team, especially by means of activities and events designed to increase motivation and promote cooperation. So this definition stands for motivation and cooperation. And this is what we actually need when we work in a team or an NGO. But how can this be achieved? From observation, in order to achieve this, we have to relate on a personal level with that people whom we work with. If I want my students, for example, to feel comfortable and to give me their best performances on stage, then I have to be professional, but also on a personal level to get closer to them, to trust them, and to validate their efforts. If I want to have people cooperation, I need first to get to know them on a personal level, to see how they talk, how they think, behave in a social meeting. So the easiest way is just to have a talk and stay connected. Now I would like to ask you, what means team building for you? In order to engage, you can say one word, one sentence about this, or just write on the chat.
I would say growing together.
Yes, this means a relation between at least two people, and then within that team, growing together and knowing each other better.
Yeah,
yes, thank you.
Double sense here in growing together, like that we all grow within the team, but that we also grow into one unit that wants to achieve the ultimate goal, so that we work like the parts of a body. Everyone contributes to the success of our unit.
Yes, yes, exactly. Thank you, Nina. Just like the body, we are a whole, but different parts.
Yeah, for me is to have a same vision.
That we are a whole, but still doing our best and dedicate our time, especially. Thank you, Leon.
I want to hop in about my idea about team building, and it's a way to make people to get to know each other on a personal level. Like you take them to grab a coffee together and to talk about what else, but away from the work, away from all this stuff. So that way they, while they're talking, they go to commonalities and they get to know each other, to connect. And when they feel connected, they will also feel connected at the work. Also on a higher level is to go together in trips, and that way they get to know each other. So this is the very basic of team building, to do activities together that are not related to the work.
Okay, thank you. So we are having a common goal. Even if you are different, we can have common goals. Yes, thank you, Alex. I will continue and say that human beings are naturally social persons, and we crave for friendship and positive interaction. By belonging to a group, we feel as we are a part of something bigger and more important than ourselves. When I decided to join CPVP, I had some challenges, of course. I was not familiar with that non-formal education. And actually, I felt like a student after graduating. No marks, no grades, just me being responsible. Also, the fundraising was something I had to learn how to approach it, because it was like a distant concept, although I knew the purpose of it. Of course, there is a mentor that will guide you through this process, so you don't have that feeling that you wasted your time. Additionally, I was very keen to find out how can I help and what can I learn. So for me, the most important thing at the beginning was to be clear with the mission of CPVP. Before reading what CPVP's mission, I would like to do an exercise with you, just to think and to share it afterwards. So imagine that you are going on the street and you are meeting a friend. From talk to talk, he or she finds out that you are a volunteer in an NGO and is asking you, what is this NGO's mission? What is it that is doing? And we're going to have 2 minutes to think. Meanwhile, I'm going to read the CPVP's mission. So the Center for Peace and Violence Prevention is dedicated to a culture of peace and respect for human dignity in conflict and post-conflict regions. Over the years, we have worked to ensure that young people, particularly those in conflict and extreme poverty regions, acquire the necessary skills and confidence they need to make positive contributions within their communities. So this was very important to me, and I hope that this is very important for you also. But taking this exercise as an imaginary exercise, you can think, what would you say if you met someone on the street and it's asking you, what are you doing actually? If someone of you wants to share his thought on this, maybe we can start. Nina? I know for you it's clear.
I just wanted to wait if everyone joins before, but that happened to me various times. The people ask me, what are you doing there? What is this organization doing? What I always pointed out in the first place is that we are one global community that heads towards one goal, which is we are empowering each other. So I think that I've learned so many things here. And that our ultimate goal is to help people empowering themselves, like we did in Mali last time, or what we tried to achieve with the sponsoring program of the children in Liberia, Nigeria, and Mali, is that people do not need to be dependent on organizations like us, but that they can see what are their possibilities, their chances, and that they also get the chance to take them.
True. Thank you. Thank you, Nina. That's a good input, because we think that we just gonna pour money there and that's it. But empower them, it's the best way to have a sustainable life. If someone else wants to share something related to CPVP's mission from remote.
Yeah, I want to share something. I'd put emphasis on creativity in this organization, because we have so many amazing projects, like even music project, which draws attention. And yeah, as Nina said, we are helping others, but everybody is welcome to come to this organization and help others through also a creative way. Like everybody comes and with his input or her input, and they do it in a creative way, like through music, through arts, through other activities. So yeah, this is my opinion.
Yes, thank you, Alex.
Yeah, just one more second. I like this idea because a lot of other organizations, from what I see, is they run in a traditional way, but we run also in a creative way. Like if you have something to share, you can share it in a creative way. You're free to come with your input. Yeah, thank you.
Yes, thank you, Alex. That's the best way a team can work. Everyone has his area of strength, which will lead me to the next slide. So people learn from each other, yes, support each other, help each other. So among less effective teams, we see conflict or clashing agendas, taking without giving. But what makes our team work? Creating true teamwork. So here are some strategies, 3 strategies. Appreciation. Appreciative inquiry begins with a clear, shared definition of what needs to be accomplished, and then explicitly draws upon the strength of team members to brainstorm means and ends. There is a very clear mindset in such teams that every person brings value to the others and has ideas, experiences, and skills to share. With that as a general framework, the focus is not arguing one's own perspective, but uncovering the value offered by each teammate. This creates a high level of interaction and engagement. And unsurprisingly, people who benefit most from teamwork are ones who seek teammates with complementary strengths, ones who will make them better. There are no yes people on effective teams and no yes but people. The keyword is and. If one has all the answers, there is no need for a team. It is when we can benefit from the strengths of others and establish processes for higher ideas. Strength, 2. Members of a team will take on different roles depending upon experience, interests, and capabilities. This is not so different from athletic teams, for example, where team members playing particular positions possess distinctive strengths that suit them for those positions. A general rule I've found amongst successful teams is that everyone is better than everyone else at something, but not at everything. And 3, communication. A major part of what makes teams work is unlocking the value within each member. That means that each member must be able to communicate their perspectives clearly and effectively. Indeed, what we see among fruitful teams is that each team member acts as a leader within the sphere of his or her expertise and experience. The notion of a single team leader guiding members toward a predetermined outcome can be replaced by a highly interactive process in which expertise is shared. So every one of us has an area of strength where he or she is comfortable to give help and support the team. So this is something to remember in order to enhance efficiency. I have some simple suggestions I was observing during my time as a volunteer regarding how a team can be efficient. 1, start with easy tasks. So when someone first is joining a team, it's better to assign a task that it's an easy one. 2, create small teams. Even 2 persons can solve an assignment or work on a project. It's too stressful to do everything by yourself. For example, we can do research work, creating content for social media, choosing pictures for an event, but always have 2 persons. 3, start to give responsibilities after some time, so in this way they can engage more in working with the team. Divide the work within the teammates of a team. 4, always stay positive and find solutions. Encourage the teammates because our emotional brain will be willing to do more if that situation or that person had a positive attitude towards him or her. For example, when I have to work with my students in order to prepare a piano recital, I will create a positive and friendly atmosphere so they can relate to this afterwards when they are playing on stage. 5, ask for a second opinion. When writing official letters, pay attention to details and have 2 persons that will look through that letter. So if there are any mistakes, to spot them. 6, communication and respect. Try to answer to emails, to messages, and when it's not possible, just write a short note that you will get back soon. I was thinking that since we have a team, an international team, sometimes the communication is crucial, even vital. And also respect, and don't get offended when someone is suggesting something different, and try to see the big picture. 7, share your concerns, share your ideas, have the courage to speak out loud. Whenever there is something, it's important to have communication and share that. 8, increase the flow of communication. When you have an information, see how you can share it with the team and to have to exchange knowledge. 9, keep your promises, unless there are some personal problems that will postpone or cancel that promise. And 10, use technology. In Europe, the technology is all around us, it's faster. We have all it takes to record instant what we need for our work. But I also know that in Africa, maybe sometimes not so easy or at handy to have all that gadgets, you know, tablets, laptop, later smartphones. So in order to note important informations, maybe we can use the old-fashioned way, writing on a paper with a pencil. I also do that from time to time. Also in a team, there are some problems and challenging. And we have to think of problem solving. So problems and challenges are a common component of a team. It is important to think of problem solving. Why? 1, it's important to prevent escalation of conflicts arising in a team or outside the team. And 2, to build a ground for further conversation and improve the general state of mind. It's important also, again, communication. Many researchers show that anger and frustration could be reduced by convincing participants in the conflict to show empathy or to provoke amusement. So when situation gets tense, in order to prevent arguments, I advise you to use 2 techniques. Try to stimulate empathy, trying to explain your personal feelings and reflect answers to the question, and then try to think from the other perspective, from the other one's point of view, to show that you understand him or her and that you like the person, even if there was a dispute. And the second technique is promote amusement, not bad jokes, but tell a good joke, do something that will bring a smile. This will detension the situation, the dispute. So these positive behaviors trigger within us pleasant feelings. Moreover, these techniques helps us to decrease irritability, and afterwards, I'm sure that people will tend to choose more constructive ways of solving problems. Our team is an international one, and I think that often problems and conflicts will arise based on cultural differences. To be able to work and to collaborate in an international group or another culture, one needs to be aware of that differences in cultures, like, for example, communication, behavior, relations among people, ways of dealing with time, tasks, authorities are normal. Understanding the reason for these differences and then accepting cultural diversity can help to deal with difficult situations between the teams. I want also to ask if you had some, and I'm sure you had some cultural diversity problems, and I'm sure that we can overcome this by getting to know each other better and communicate. Again, communication. I have some advices for working remotely. Because since March, when the curfew has started due to coronavirus, we were forced to work remotely, and most of our activities were shut down or postponed. I imagine that an NGO had to change its perspective and had some challenges on how they will continue their activities and how will they meet their team members. So I have some suggestions, since maybe the curfew will be installed again. We never know how the situation will be. So this is like a motivational guide for volunteers during the pandemic lockdown. Keep the team connected to the mission, explore together new possibilities for the organization to solve activities facing the new situation. Organize online meetings for working, team building, learning, or just for the sake of seeing each other. Working from home. Give the chance to have initiative on a specific project. Create communication materials like videos, photos, testimonials about our past and recent work, and share them on social media when we are staying home, of course. Team members can learn now at home how to use different tools they don't know, like Zoom, for example. I had to learn how to use Zoom. Also, I can suggest Google for nonprofits, canva.com, who knows, and then transfer the knowledge. Assessing and evaluating what can we do remotely? What are the collective skills that can make the team work together? Think of grant proposals and prepare for them. When we are obliged to stay home, we can think of how we can write grant proposals. Write to each other an encouragement letter or message. Have team building online. For example, there are also online shows, musicians having gigs, theater, so we can actually invite them even from home. Invite our team members to have a get-together show night show. Create an online melody that can be used in the future, or it's just like a jingle for our NGO. Have a casual online meeting where everyone gets the chance to talk about their impression during the lockdown. Have online webinars like this, and then let them choose the topic they want to talk about. This way, we are all involved. We can have a guest outside our team that will bring a boost of energy, like we had today, Astrid. When having an online meeting, inform the team ahead the subjects that will be discussed, so this way they can be prepared. Have a moderator each time and then change the person for next time. Be flexible and see if the teammates are tired or bored and adapt during the online meeting. And the last suggestion is, during a meeting, give an active role to more members. For example, taking the minutes, technical support, moderator. I think that appreciation and happiness comes together. Happy team members will dedicate their best to accomplish the objectives, and they might even succeed in doing it quicker than as an individual. Capable teams always produce superior outcomes. Just the team leaders have to ensure that the team members are contented and should diminish and resolve conflict efficiently. I don't know how we are with the time, but I'm almost finished. I have also come across a circle of 8 competencies that can be used as a general guideline for NGOs while having the desire to work with volunteers, if volunteers want to join NGOs. So just as a general idea, and highlighting the fact that we all have an area of strength, and we can work with these 8 competencies. But this is just a general idea. So the first one, communication in the mother language. 2, communication in foreign languages. 3, mathematical competencies and basic competencies in science and technology. 4, digital competencies. 5, learning to learn. 6, social and civic competencies. 7, sense of initiative and entrepreneurship. And 8, cultural awareness and expression. And I'm sure that we have most of these in our team due to our international team. Maybe as a homework, you can think of which competence do you feel most comfortable with working and putting into action. So that was my presentation. if you have questions, of course, I will forward this to Nina so she can share it with you. And I'm sure we all do our best within CPVP. And thank you for this webinar and attending until the end.
Thank you so much, Calina. I really liked the presentation, and I especially like this circle of competencies. Like, we could even have a few minutes now, like everyone could say what he or she thinks that his or her main competencies are. For example, one of my competencies would be the first one, like communication in the mother language here in German. Yeah, and learning to learn as well, because I'm a never-ending student, I guess.
Yes, it was one I was thinking of, learning to learn.
Yeah,
yes.
It's important. Yeah, maybe
the learning is endless.
Shortly. That's cool.
Yes, we can try shortly to see, for example, I'm going to ask Alina now, if she's still there. What's her competence?
Yes,
her main
sure.
competence, of course.
Okay. I believe that my main competence for this organization, for example, is communication, research, creativity, and networking, I think.
Yes, you are good at networking. I'm sure of that. I know
Thank
that.
you.
Hi. Yes, I guess my competences are number 6, social and civic competences, and maybe 7, because I guess I have a sense of initiative and entrepreneurship, but I have to practice a bit in that. But I see me as a social person, and I guess this is where I can find myself.
Thank you. I also see myself in the social and civic competencies, cultural awareness and expression, and learning to learn.
Maybe we could also have, for example, Dino speaking, Dozy, Leo, Alex, and Pauline.
Okay. I see myself in the mathematical competencies and basic competencies in science and technology, and then learning to learn. Thank you.
Thank you. I think, yes, this learning to learn is the most important. And Pauline? Maybe the technology will work. We have a signal from Pauline.
Yes, so I see myself and number 5, learning to learn, social and civics competency, and of course, number 7, initiative and entrepreneurship. Yes.
Great, Pauline. This can be also seen in more detail on youth.
Yes.
I'm going to give the
Can
link.
I go ahead?
Yes. I'm going to give the link.
So, like I said, I see myself.
That's very cool. I want to thank everyone for the contribution. Leo, maybe you still have something to
Yeah.
say.
Yeah, I see my competencies in with 5, learn to learn, sense of initiative, and 8, cultural wordnesses and expression.
Great, thank you, Leo.
Yeah.
Yeah, so also this can engage a team at the beginning.
I forgot to mention, I also see my competence in communication in the mother language. Like,
We all need that.
Dozy, what is your mother language?
that's the Igbo language.
Igbo, that's cool.
I think
So
in
it's-
Africa, this is a very strong point to know all the local languages and the mother languages.
Yeah, I think it's important that we can also reach the local communities in the countries we are active in, and that is like
Okay.
Pauline, can you please mute your microphone? Thank you.
Maybe we can have a discussion where everyone contributes how we can design our teamwork within CPVP more efficiently on the basis what we have heard from Calina right now. So what would be your ideas that we can maximize the efficiency of CPVP? Just feel free and talk. talk.
And we can have another webinar where we can discuss this and everyone has the chance to bring their contribution.
I think I'm left with the circle of competencies because I didn't say what are my competencies for the team. So yeah, I find myself in the digital competencies in the first, and I'm very used with the technology nowadays. So everybody who's gonna have some needs about this, feel free to ask me. If I don't know, I have other friends that are very good into this, so I can ask them and get back to you. And another one, it's like sense of initiative and entrepreneurship, like number 7, because I'm also into this freelancing stuff. And the last one, it's 8, cultural awareness and expression, because in the last years I met a lot of foreign people due to traveling and also living in this big city where it's full of immigrants like me. So I had a lot of time to engage with all the people and see how they think from a lot of countries and a lot of continents.
Yes, and you are very, very useful and dedicated team member to CPVP.
Thank you.
So I think that's it. If someone else wants to add something, I'm not sure in the next webinar, we'll be very pleased to talk about the next topic. We don't know the next topic.
So yeah, I also think when we look to the time, I think that everyone who still has contributions can share them within the CPVP groups and we spread them throughout the others. And if someone has suggestions concerning a next webinar, because I think this webinar was very useful for us. Also, I got to know many people I have not seen before. That's amazing. And when someone of you wants to talk about something within the team, just feel free to bring it up and we will try to organize the webinar around it. And I'm so happy about all these contents we've heard today. And I also enjoyed hearing your opinions, your contributions. This was very fruitful, I think. And I want to thank everyone who participated. It was a pleasure.
Likewise,
Yes,
here it was a pleasure to meet the team members from Africa also.
thank you, Calina. Thank you, Nina. Thank you, Austria, for your presentations. You have done very well, especially for our diplomat guest who left her work to share with us and also to stay here throughout the rest of the presentations. That's very kind of you. Thank you so much. For the rest of you who were listening and giving your contributions and your inputs from Europe and those of you in Africa, we want to thank all of you for taking our time. I know it requires a lot of sacrifices to get data from Africa and set up your network, get in a quiet place, and to spend this number of time. I really truly appreciate the efforts you put in here. Regarding our next webinar, we will come up with the various topics and the speakers. We're going to do this on a monthly basis, but also we're going to be switching to bring in high-level speakers who are very skilled in their field of expertise, and we can learn from them. As Nina on the line, if some of you have topics that you'd like us to discuss, also let us know. But we have to also keep them within the framework of the sort of things that we do. It's not a wrong idea to step out of it on one or two topics, of course, but we want to be prepared in the area that we work so that we know that we are equipped and prepared to either go on the field to work or to attend high-level meetings or to represent us through policy papers and through recommendations, or they're going to be academic writing or just basically volunteering in whatever area of works that we have to do. The next one, of course, the next webinar for next month will still be presented by 2 persons from CPVP, the minimum. But the third one, we have to bring in maybe 1 guest speaker, a highly efficient, effective, well-skilled person in their field to share their experiences with us. Thank you, everyone, again. And if anyone else has a comment, suggestions, recommendations, please feel free to go on.
I want to thank you all. And God bless you.
Thank you, Calina.
Thank you.
Thank you, Tino. Anyone else? Anyone else? Any comment? We just gonna run up. We have the next 2-3 minutes. So if you have anything to say, let's make use of this time, and then we allowed ourselves to get back to business. Injur, by the way, you are speaking next during the next talk. Injur will be speaking. We have already identified his topic already, so Injur will be one of our guest speakers, one of our speakers for next week. I mean, for next month, for sure. And then we will get another team member from one of the other teams, either in Romania or Africa, to speak on during the next internal webinar. If there is nothing else left to be said, Nina, have you got anything else to say?
No, there's no contribution. I'm just very happy about this gathering. And just for your information, I recorded all the talks. So the whole webinar is recorded, and I was spread it in the teams. If somebody needs it via email or another channel, just let me know. Thank you. Then I will stop the recording now.